Hello, everyone. Welcome to my podcast, Killing Grandma. Because of so many emails and text messages and so many questions, I've decided to do a continuous episode breaking down the misinformation of COVID because there's so many questions out there. I wanted to start with Anne Frank had a saying, and it basically said this: look at how a single candle can both defy and define the darkness. I think that is so well said, and it defines really what happened during COVID. COVID was just a disaster. And today I want to talk about the misinformation of the vaccine. As I said in my previous podcast, Follow the Money. From my previous podcast, we talked a little bit about the funds, $143 billion that went to what was called Provider Relief Fund, which went to hospitals and to care facilities. And we kept trying to figure out why everybody was being diagnosed with COVID. And by following the money, we realized that the more COVID that was diagnosed, the more money that was available for individuals. So they kept that hoax going pretty well through the Provider Relief Fund. But now let's follow the money with actually the vaccine. We all know that there were other remedies besides what Pfizer was offering. Yet the government was telling us that that was all a hoax. We were getting stuff on radio and on TV saying that some of this other stuff, they'd make fun of these other solutions. And there were multiple solutions that were out there for the vaccine. So we're going to follow the money today, but I wanted to look at the misinformation. Number one, let's look at the misinformation and then we'll follow the money a little bit. Number one, we have the natural immunity. We were being told that, oh no, you have to get the vaccine because of natural immunity will not work in this situation. So what do? We close down schools. We require everybody to get a vaccine. The hard thing with that is, it came on TV. We have the president talking, we have Fauci talking, and we have people that were refusing the vaccine either because they didn't believe in it or for religious reasons. And people that had great careers in the military were getting terminated. A lot of companies were not allowing people to go to work unless they had the vaccine, and it suddenly became almost like a blackmail conspiracy that if you didn't have that vaccine, you were going to leave your house because you were going to infect the entire world. So there was this giant lie going on. Now, I do give the government credit when this first came out. I think they were doing the best that they could. But as it later started to progress, they had information that could have changed everything in a proper way, but because of all the money and everything that was going on, they decided to continue the big lie and so much misinformation. So we have found that even there's multiple studies now that have gone out on the vaccine, and they've compared that with natural immunity. They've decided that it's about 50-50. The vaccine works for a few people in a certain way, but natural immunity certainly is a very positive way to, like we've done with everything growing up, from measles to chickenpox when I was young. Sometimes you'd have a chickenpox party and get together so that everybody would get the chickenpox so that you were then naturally immune. The philosophy we were told was not a good philosophy. It actually is a good philosophy, and natural immunity is actually a good way to become immune. So that was one of the COVID misinformation. Others that we'll touch on as we go along. Long COVID. I want to have a series on that because so many people have been affected for life with long COVID. We also had 100 school closures. Why did schools shut down? Was it because, well, number one, they didn't allow natural immunity to take place with the young people in schools? We were told that it was supposedly just the elderly people that were most affected and people that were unhealthy, sick, and obese. Yet they shut down all the young people's schools. Made no sense. Well, let's follow the money. There was $190 billion given to the teachers union, so they had a really financial big reason to shut down the schools, which has affected our youth and will affect our youth and our society for years and years to come. Follow the money. It's had nothing to do with, oh, let's protect our students, let's protect families. No, this had to do with greed, and it had to do with money. The other false misinformation that was young people needed boosters. Well, if young people weren't included in the most affected, why would they need boosters? There's been several studies now that have shown that that young people really don't need the boosters. Let natural immunity take effect, and they're good, unless they're sickly kids. But if you look at all the studies, it's coming up more and more that the young people don't need boosters and that they're healthy and they can go through natural immunity. The other thing that was being told to everyone is that COVID was the cause of heart inflammation. I think they call that myocarditis. And what they found is multiple studies show that it's 28 times more common that inflammation of the heart with the vaccine. And yet they were telling us just the opposite. So I wanted to go through and just let's talk again. I mean, I saw so many sad things happening with our elderly that they were forced into basically they couldn't dine together. They had to be in their rooms. We really did a disservice to our elderly population, all in the name of thinking that we're protecting them. Yet behind the scenes, it wasn't protection at all. It was people making lots of money, and the people who suffered on the back end of that was our elderly. It was we were not honoring, we were not doing any service to the elderly by doing what we did. Now, if we follow the money, it's extremely important to look at that. Pfizer, everybody knows Pfizer. Boy, they were, when they first started, they were going to save the world. I remember we got these forms, and when we were in healthcare, we were like the top priority, and we went and had all the elderly sign up forms stating that they either would or wouldn't take the COVID shot, and if they wouldn't, the company wasn't liable. And basically, elderly people trust vaccines. You know, they grew up with polio and whooping cough and a lot of diseases that have been pretty well eliminated through vaccines. So they have a lot of trust in the vaccine process. So most of them signed thinking they were getting well taken care of. Hundreds and hundreds of elderly people died because of misinformation. Now, let's look at Pfizer. Why were they pushing it so hard? Well, they had a 124% increase in profit revenue when COVID was going on. They made a revenue profit of $81.29 million. That is crazy. I mean, absolutely crazy. And it just breaks your heart that they were pushing that, saying that it was the cure-all, that everybody has to have it, and that, if you get this shot, you won't get COVID. You're basically immune to that. I mean, we were being lied left and right through, but a lot of it, there again, follow the money. The other thing you have to look at is, most people don't realize this, but a lot of those doctors like Dr. Fauci and all of those scientists that were arguing and fighting over where COVID came from, well, yeah, of course they were fighting over where COVID came from, because they all had their hand in the cookie jar. The National Institute of Health received, in royalties from the vaccination, $710 million in royalties. Which, okay, why are all these scientists, why were they arguing? And we had a few scientists that were saying, no, that the vaccine isn't the solution. Well, they were getting like torpedoed and ousted out of the community, the health community, because they'd say such a stupid thing. Well, if you go behind the scene, there were millions and millions of dollars being passed around to the scientist through the royalties on the vaccine. Now, also, there were individual scientists that were getting royalties. If you look, there was $350 million in royalties given to individual scientists that were part of the NIH, the National Institute of Health. Now, our dear Dr. Fauci, you wonder, well, why was he, so pro-COVID, and why did he get in front of the TV and lie to us day after day after day? And the CDC would get on TV and lie to us day after day and tell us we need to do this and we need to do that. And the American community all, oh, they know what they're doing. They're doctors. Yes, we got to follow them. Well, Dr. Fauci, he pocketed $11 million from his royalties. The man became a millionaire over the royalties and the investments he had in the vaccine, in the COVID vaccine. So as you look at these things, I think we have to learn as a community, as a people, that not always is it as it appears. And the government, this was the biggest cover-up that ever existed on the face of mankind, was the government hiding and giving out misinformation because there was so much money that was flowing, and it was a way for them to turn on the faucet to get more money and more money and more money. And it's just despicable what happened. I will continue with some short videos, and we'll talk about other misinformation with COVID, including masks, including long COVID, the people that are still suffering today from long COVID. There are just so many misinformation out there, but most of that information, when you track it back, it's tracked back to money. And all the people that were profiting and lying to us. Like I said in my first video, there should be and should have been people incarcerated for what they did to the American people, because there were so many people who died because of this misinformation. They made us think that they were saving lives with these vaccines, when in so many cases they were killing people. Anyway, I will continue on this. It's a topic near and dear to my heart because I worked in healthcare. I love healthcare, and so I look forward to sharing this information. And if you have any questions, you can text me or email me, and I'm happy to answer any questions I can. I've been in the field. I watched this, and I was even involved in it. I fell for the big misinformation when it first started because, man, I wanted to save lives. I wanted to make sure the elderly people were safe, and I wanted to protect them. I had no idea that we were being lied to, along with so many other people. It's really hard, and so I want to share this information, and hopefully we can learn from this. Anyway, I look forward to future videos, this series of Killing Grandma, and we'll talk more about the misinformation and why that misinformation, not too much of it was by accident. So anyway, we'll talk about it. You guys have a good day. We'll talk to you later.